Hey friends, how are you? Thanks for clicking on today's video. If you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Kat. I read primarily romance novels and like to talk about them on my channel here. I love love stories. I love being able to fall in love every time I open a book. I never, ever get sick of reading romance novels. I love the journey that they take us on. I love reading about love through different people's eyes. It's also really important to me to support indie authors. Not that I only read indie authors, but it's important to me to be able to give support to the authors of the books that I read, to be able to have this escape in life and have it be something that is so beautiful and wonderful, and the feeling that a good love story gives me when I sit down to read it. So that's what you're going to find here on my channel. But for now, let's get into the reason why we are here today. Today's video is on the book Ghost Note by Vicki James, otherwise known as Victoria L. James. I fell in love with Vic's writing, and I just automatically call her Vic now because I love her stories, I love her characters. I have done several videos on several of her books. I will link them in the description box below for you. There's just something that comes over me when I read on a Kindle. So it's not like I open the book, but when I open the book on my Kindle, there's and look, why am I crying? I don't want to cry in this video. I cry in a lot of my videos, but I'm an emotional person, which is why I love love stories. So when I get a book of hers and I sit down and I have my Kindle in my hand and I open it and I get to that first page, it's like my heart just knows exactly what it's in store for. And I get a warm feeling, and I just, it starts beating a little bit faster, and my brain just totally focuses completely on the words. And I have to say, I don't get that reaction every time I read a book, but let me tell you, when I do, that's my favorite part of reading romance books, my connection and how the story makes me feel. And Vic does an incredible job of that. Ghost Note is it's not technically a series, but this is the third book. There are some reoccurring characters in this book, and then we also met Daisy and Danny a little bit in the previous book, which was Dirty Rock, which, oh my God. And then the first book was called Cherry Beets. Oh my God. I can't believe that with each story, I just have fallen more and more and more in love. I've just loved them all. So even though they're technically not a series, you might want to think about starting at Cherry Beets because you go on the best journey with these books. Ghost Note is about Danny and Daisy. We met them in Dirty Rock. I was actually surprised that we took this turn. I thought maybe she would write another book about the Youth Gone Wild boys, but she took a turn, and I like where she went with it. Daisy and Danny are a pair of young in love kids. They started dating when they were like 14 or something. The prologue of the book is taking us back to a moment in their relationship when they're about 20. They were each other's first love. It's young love. It's beautiful love. I mean, wow. The way she wrote their relationship was so sweet, so beautiful. They obviously have chemistry. The way that they were entwined in each other's lives and the hope that they had for their future was just amazing. That was the prologue, and we know that by the end of the prologue that they aren't together anymore. I'm gonna do my very, very best to give you their story like I do in all my videos without giving you spoilers, because I don't like to give spoilers, but I do talk in detail about the book. But I'm not giving you a spoiler to say that they're not together anymore. This is the journey that Vic takes us on with Danny and Daisy. So after we read the prologue and we realize that, oh, there's Macy making noise, snoring down there, sorry. And we know that they're not together anymore, you can kind of assume when the book starts that it's in a pretty heavy spot. So it's now 5 years after that. So they're in their middle 20s at this point. They're from a quaint English beach town, and Daisy still lives there. She's living her life. She's got great friends. She's been dating. She's fine. That would be the word that I would describe her with. You know she's heartbroken. You know that she keeps her heart to herself. You know that Danny broke her when he left. She's okay, but you can feel the sadness that she carries with her over the loss of that relationship. Danny, when he left, he went to chase his dream. And we know that that dream has worked out really well for him. He's the guitarist for a very famous, up-and-coming, world-known band, and that he's been traveling the world, and he's a rock star. And we know in the prologue that that was hard for him to leave. But he said that his love for Daisy wasn't enough to keep him from following his dream. Wasn't enough. Oh my gosh. Ouch. So my heart is totally broken for her, and I totally understand Daisy 100% in how she's living her life without him. Something that Daisy says that just killed me was, and let me back up a little bit in telling you, and if you've seen I sound like I'm all over the place. If you've seen my other videos about Vic's books, you know that Vic always attaches a playlist. There's always music involved in some way in her books. I think most of her books, right? Yes, usually. I associate music with her, so, and this book was no different. Not only because Danny was a rock star, but the other ways that she infuses music into the story. And I'll get to that in a minute, but we know that Daisy says that she doesn't listen to music anymore with words because it's just too hard for her. Could you imagine a world without music? I know that my family is so musical. My husband is so musical. He loves all kinds of music. I think I've talked about that before. He's a very eclectic taste in music. So it made me think about how Daisy can't listen to it anymore if it has words because it's too much for her. And oh my gosh, that killed me. And this is what she says about it. Effing music. Everyone spoke about how it saved them, leaving me think I was the only one who had ever been destroyed by it. And it did. Danny leaving to chase his dream of being a guitarist and chasing the music, it did destroy her. And she has not followed his career. She doesn't know where he is in the world. She decided, because everyone was like, how do you not know what he's done with his life? How do you not know who he's involved in? How do you not know where he's been? You know, there's something that brings Danny back into town. And it's, of course, everyone's talking about it, not only because of the situation that brought him back, but the fact that it was like the hometown successful boy, you know, who never looked back, has to come back into town. I didn't know, and I wasn't sure, and let me say that the book is from Daisy's perspective, so we don't get all of Danny's perspective. Danny wasn't heartless. He made a really tough decision as a young man, a baby adult, to do something that he had to do. And although I didn't like it, and it was very painful to read, I understood it in a way. But because he's never returned, there's a lot of rumor and there's some stuff that's happened while he was gone that people don't really like Danny anymore. Not just Daisy, but they also know that he's like this big successful rock star. and they think that he's just kind of left and never looked back. Daisy says, everyone saw Danny for the very thing that I never thought he would be, a selfish jerk. I'm replacing the last word because she uses a different word. That's how Danny is received coming back into town. And so I knew it had to be hard for him. I knew it had to be hard on Daisy. But him coming back, everyone's like, what do you mean you don't know who he is, like what he's been doing? Everyone tiptoes around her because they know that he broke her heart. Because Daisy has stayed close and basically at home in the same town, she has stayed close with his family, and that was like the sweet part that really tore at my heartstrings. Was everywhere she turned, him not staying with her, she saw everywhere, if that makes any sense. And when he comes back, all of a sudden it's like he's on her turf, even though it's his hometown. But something else she said that really made my heart clench was, how can a person still feel like home when you haven't known where they've been for the last 5 years? So it speaks to their connection that they have. And as angry and as hurt as she is, it was so interesting to read how Danny approached her and how he circled her and tried to get her to talk to him and open up and kind of get back into, at the very basis, of friendship. And it was so obvious that they still loved each other so much and were so attracted to each other, and that they were each other's person. Oh my God. And it was funny because when Vic was writing this, she's like, the angst. And I was like, oh my God, yes, the angst. It was delicious. Like I said, it becomes apparent that they still love each other. So are they going to be able to reconcile? Are they going to be able to be friends? Because they either love each other or they need closure. But as we get a little more from Danny, we understand why he left. I mean, we know why, but he gets into it more specifically. And this is what sealed the deal. When he said this, I loved him. Sometimes we let go of the very thing we want to keep hold of, and we do it because we know if we don't, that thing will never bloom, he whispered, his voice rough and broken, and we need it to effing bloom. Something so simple like him saying that, I understood that he not only left for himself, but he left for her so that she could find who she was going to be. Who was Daisy without Danny? And he had the maturity, even though they're the same age, he had the maturity in that last year that they were together, where their lives started changing, to know that if he didn't leave and follow his dream, he was going to resent the heck out of her, even though he loved her so much and it was the hardest thing he could have ever done. I'm getting emotional. And also on the flip side, to let her go and figure out who she was going to be. Because when you think about that time in life, when you're like in your young 20s, I thought really long and hard about that time, because even though my husband and I met when we were in middle school, we reconnected when we were 20 and started dating when we were 20. And I think about that time in relation to the way Danny and Daisy's story was. And for us at that time, it was the right time for us to meet, obviously, because here we are, 20s, how many years was it? We just celebrated our 24th wedding anniversary. It was the right time for us. But for them, for Daisy and Danny, they were at like a precipice of like, Danny's feeling like he's got to go do it. It's such an interesting part of life, that age. So when he said that, it flipped a switch inside me that I didn't realize I needed flipped, and how I connected to him. Oh my gosh, all bets were off at that point. I was like an emotional mess in the best way through the whole rest of the book. Maybe emotional mess isn't the right word. I mean it, like in the best way. That my emotions, I was so tied to the story. And something else I really liked about their story was how honest they were with each other. She gets to a point where she understands why he left, and this is what she says about it. His talent wasn't just a hobby, it was in his veins and who he was always meant to be. I understood that now, I saw it, and I hated myself for ever thinking that music could ever destroy a life just because he dared to follow his dream. Just that added little oomph of something that was extra special for me. I had to message Vic and tell her this. Again, it's about the music, and Danny's kind of schooling Daisy a little bit about music and songs and stuff and showing her his world, really. He's like clicking on songs on his Spotify playlist, and she's telling him the name of the songs. And I just, like, my mouth fell open because, so I mentioned before that my husband has a very eclectic taste in music and likes all different kinds of music and everything. But his early teen years, you know, pretty much, well, he still kind of is, but he developed a love for punk and punk music and alternative and eventually industrial, you know, all of this, in addition to a lot of other genres. But I knew nothing when we started dating about all that kind of music. and I felt like my brother was very musical, and we listened to a lot of different music just because he used to blare music constantly in the house. But this whole part that my husband introduced me to, I knew nothing about. So we used to be driving in his car when we were first dating, and a song would come on, and if it was one of his favorite bands, he would say, "Who is this? You know, you've heard this one before." And so I'd have to listen to it and remember and think, oh, is this Skinny Puppy? Oh, is this Black Flag? Is this KMFDM? Is this, you know, whoever? I just couldn't believe, because this happens to me in Vic's books, that there's something that she wrote, and it happened in Dirty Rock, and it was something very sad and emotional that I connected with really heavily. And I'm so happy that this was light and happy, but it took me right back there to thinking about when my husband used to do that, and I had to share that with her because it was so extra special and fun. And also, going with the whole music theme, I have to admit to being slightly obsessive after I finish one of her books, because I'm so engrossed in the story, and I just live it for like a day or two. I mean, it'll stay in my heart forever, obviously, but I get a little obsessive about it for a day or two. It's all I think about. It's all I daydream about. That being said, I finished Ghost Note at night and then went to sleep. Didn't sleep, just sat there and thought about it all night long. And literally, I just kept replaying, because Daisy sings Superstar by originally the Carpenters to Danny, and they sing it together, and it's like, you know, not their song, but it's something that Vic brings up in addition to some other songs. And that song and the Carpenters, okay, that's like takes me right back to being a young child. And listening to Rainy Days and Mondays, and Karen Carpenter's voice, and knowing that she was gone too soon, but the gift that her and her brother had and the music that they gave the world is not lost on me. So I just laid there, and for like the last 2 days, all I've done is like sing Superstar in my head. It made me cry. And I was like a glutton for punishment. And I was like all in, sitting there every time I got a chance to like pull up it on Spotify and listen to it, or pull it up on YouTube and just listen to the beginning of the song. I would get tears in my eyes. And I think that will happen anytime I hear that song now. I obviously loved this book. I mean, are we surprised? No. I would highly recommend you read Ghost Note. Oh my gosh, just do yourself a favor and pick up any of her books and just start. You will love her storytelling, I promise you. Let me know if you have read Ghost Note or any of Vic's other books. Remember, she goes by Vicki James and Victoria L. James. So let me know if you've read any of her books in the comments below. July is a crazy reading month. It's amazing. I have so many wonderful books I am going to continue to bring to you this month. So make sure that you hit the notification bell and subscribe below so you get notified when I release a new video. I'm also pretty active on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Cat Reads Romance. And then also I have a private Facebook group that I welcome you to join, which is called Cat's Romance Readers. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for taking time to sit and watch the video. I really appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Bye.